talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. One, two, three, four. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking on your Thursday night? I hope you're having a good one. We're tonight gonna let me tell you about Andy Kaufman, a one-of-a-kind talent we will never see the likes of again. And hopefully you guys have seen Andy Kaufman before, because you can't explain him. with words and pictures. You have to have experienced him. As you'll notice, I put the hee-haw background on there because I just figured it's Andy Kaufman. Why make it actually logical at all? Here you go. I love it when YouTube sends me an... Whoops, sorry. Let me see if I can make that happen right properly here on the screen. YouTube sends me a notification. God dang it. Okay, YouTube sends me a notification that my own show is live. That is fabulous. There you go. Right there. Isn't that great? Isn't that good? Thank you, YouTube. I appreciate that. That's helpful. Hey, how's everybody doing? Brother. Oh, gosh. Hey, do us a favor here before we get started. Please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. All those things, just a click on a like, a click on a subscribe. You never have to come back again, but it helps us, with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing algorithm. Plus, we do have memberships, and we do have super chats. That helps us pay the bills around here. How would I afford to allow StreamYard to destroy my show every night if it wasn't for the kind donations of you people? And if you check the begging bar, the ticker at the bottom of the screen, it will instruct you how to turn on your gifted memberships. A lot of times very generous people come through here and they will gift you. That's right, they will gift you a membership to the show. And if you're a member, you get access to that exclusive members-only content I'm too frightened to put on the internet at large on the weekends. So anyway, that will happen. What was the other thing? Oh, yeah, we also have the correct URL to our merchandise store. We don't quite yet have... Cafe Press is making me prove that scant is not something bad or evil. So that's delaying the process. Anyway, we do have a few quotes from you folks before we get going here into our deep dive on Andy Kaufman. And Michael Gardner says, Dr. Vinnie Boombats, which is a Rodney Dangerfield reference, I think. Dupa Doo is here, and we're always glad to see her. People saying hi. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet. It's verified by independent sources. Metal Maiden Vicky is here. Her show, Metal Maiden Vicky's Metal Euphoria, airs every Saturday from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time at sonicasylumradio.com. One of the fine people that stream our show. Let's see here. People saying hi. Crappy at Life is here with us. H2BH. Happy to be here. Happy to be here as well. Let's see. People saying hi. Andy Kaufman was brilliant and is a great topic. Thank you. Someone else probably suggested it. It was probably had nothing to do with me. Tyler Schollenberger. Andy was definitely a character and one of a kind. And Tyler Schollenberger is from the Quad Cities. Always thought I'd see more wheelchairs in the Quad Cities. Let's see. People saying hi. Dupa says, I can't think of anyone like Andy Kaufman. There's just no one. Crappy Life says, hee-haw. Let me tell you about String Bean and Grandpa Jones. We are going to do a show on String Bean, by the way. Kaufman played Dr. Vinnie Boombats on Fridays? Did he? Because Vinnie Boombats was definitively a Rodney Dangerfield character. I could look that up. I didn't find anything on that, but he was on Fridays, I think, 3 times. And all 3 times were just out of this world bizarre. And I will tell you about that very shortly. Julian Zeezer, the knowledgeable Julian Zeezer, is here with us. And people saying good to see you to Julian Zeezer. Now, let me tell you about Andy Kaufman. And thank you, StreamYard, again, for ruining my show. Obviously, a well-known comedian and entertainer in general. He's been called an anti-comedian. I don't think he is an anti-comedian. I just think his take, his outlook, his willingness to be unabashedly original, totally unique, just got to the heart of making people laugh. He didn't go out down any well-worn roads. He just had a massive distaste for telling jokes. and engaging in traditional comedy. He said in an interview one time, "I am not a comic. I have never told a joke. The comedian's promise is that he will go out there and make you laugh with him. My only promise is that I will try to entertain you the best that I can." I don't know how deeply I want to get into this, or if I just want to go into his background. I'm just going to go into his background. I was going to talk about what he's famous for, but it doesn't make any difference, really. I could do this show probably speaking in pig Latin throughout the entire show. And I thought about doing that as a tribute to Andy Kaufman, but I decided I'm not talented enough. Andy was born in New York City. He was the oldest of 3 kids, and he was in a middle-class Jewish family. His mom was just a housewife, former fashion model, and his father was a jewelry salesman. And he started performing at children's birthday parties at age 9. He would play records and show cartoons. He spent a lot of his childhood writing poetry, stories, including, importantly, an unpublished novel called The Hollering Mangu, which he completed at age 16. And following a visit to his school from Nigerian musician Babatunde Olatunji, he started playing the congas, which he was well known to play and very good at, by the way. One of his bits was just kind of a call and answer. Anyway, after graduating from Great Neck North High School in 1967, he took a year off before enrolling at the 2-year college, Graham Junior College, which is no longer in existence, in Boston. And that's where he studied television production, and he had his own campus TV show called Uncle Andy's Funhouse. In August of '69, he hitchhiked to Las Vegas to meet Elvis Presley, showing up unannounced at the International Hotel. Soon after, he began performing at coffee houses and developing his act, as well as writing a one-man play called Gosh, which he later retitled God, and it was published in the year 2000. After graduating in 1971, he began performing at stand-up comedy places and very small clubs on the East Coast. Now, he first got major attention for his character that would become Latka, okay, on the highly acclaimed and highly rated sitcom Taxi. But he didn't call that character Latka. He called the character Foreign Man. And he spoke in a meek, high-pitched voice with a heavy accent. Claimed to be from Caspiar, a fictional island in the Caspian Sea. And it was this character that convinced the owner of the Improv in New York City, a very famous owner, Bud Friedman, to allow him to perform on stage. Now, as Foreign Man, he would appear on the stage of comedy clubs and play this is so brilliant, and it's, I think, the first thing I ever saw him do. He would play a recording of the theme from the Mighty Mouse cartoon show while standing perfectly still. And he would only move to do the part, "Here I come to save the day," and then return to position. The "Here I come to save the day" would be with huge amounts of enthusiasm. The rest of it, very, very... Anyway, he would then tell some intentionally extremely poor jokes. And then, oh God, I'm not going to do any of this justice, but he would do celebrity impersonations. And in his fake accent, he would go, "I would like to imitate Mr. Carter, the President of the United States." And then in the exact same voice, "Hello, I am Mr. Carter, the President of the United States. Thank you very much." And then when they got conditioned to these, really, "This is my impression of Jimmy Cagney," Hello, I am Mr. Jimmy Cagney. Thank you very much. He would say, I'd like to imitate Elvis Presley. And then he would do what I considered to be the very best Elvis impersonation ever. Took off his jacket, slicked his hair back, and did one of Elvis's big songs. And like Elvis, he would take his jacket and throw it into the audience. But unlike Elvis, he would then immediately ask for it to be returned. And then he would bow and thank you very much, and off he went. So portions of the Foreign Man Act were broadcast during the very first season of Saturday Night Live. The Mighty Mouse number was featured in the October 11, 1975 premiere, while the joke-telling and celebrity impressions, including Elvis, were included in the November 8th broadcast later that same year. And look, very important to point out that the early Saturday Night Live, unlike the rest of the 50 years, early Saturday Night Live would put very unique acts on stage. They would never do that now, ever. But they did it back then, and they hit the jackpot with Andy Kaufman. The Foreign Man character was changed into Latka Gravis for ABC's sitcom Taxi. Now, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Taxi. I thought it was just an incredible show. And basically, he appeared in about 79 episodes from 1978 to 1983. According to Bob Zamuda, who was a close friend, I guess, of Andy Kaufman, an associate, let's say. I don't know that Andy had Bob as a friend, and I don't know that Bob Zamuda has friends, frankly. And I don't say that to be mean. There was a period of time, longtime followers of the show know that we had a friend of the show named Dave Lehrman. And Dave constantly was telling me he could get Bob Zamuda to appear on the show. And he'd give me an email address or give me some. I'd reach out, hear nothing, and then later on Dave would come back and say, no, I really can get Bob Zamuda to, and it just went in this huge circle. I don't hold it against Bob Zamuda, maybe against Dave Lehrman, but anyway. And the deal was they were basically buying the Foreign Man character, or at least major attributes of it. Now, Andy Kaufman did not like sitcoms, and he did not like the idea of being in one, but his manager convinced him that this is going to be a big deal for you, and that's going to give you the money that you need to do anything that you want. So Andy Kaufman says, look, I'll be in 14 episodes a season. And he initially wanted 14 of those episodes. Daggone it. Hold on a second here. I got to put something up on the screen that I know I downloaded. I know for a fact that I downloaded it. He had an alter ego. All right? Here you go. His alter ego was a character by the name of Tony Clifton. Tony Clifton was the most and is the most abrasive performer of all time. I mean, absolutely repellent. And Tony Clifton was played by Andy Kaufman a lot, but he was also played by Andy's brother and the aforementioned Bob Zamuda. When Andy Kaufman agreed to be on Taxi, 14 episodes a season, he wanted 4 of those episodes to be about Tony Clifton here, okay? And after Kaufman deliberately sabotaged Clifton's appearance on the show, however, that part of his contract was dropped. His character was given multiple personality disorder, okay? And that allowed Kaufman to randomly portray other characters. In one episode of Taxi, Kaufman's character came down with a condition, I guess Kaufman, I can call him Kaufman, come down with a condition that made him act like Alex Rieger, who was the main character of the show, played by Judd Hirsch. Another recurring character played by him was his womanizing alter ego, Vic Ferrari. So instead of being this meek, somewhat self-deprecating, innocent Latka Gravis, he would turn into the almost like Buddy Love. He would turn into Vic Ferrari, okay? There's a legend that was created that Andy Kaufman was very disruptive while doing Taxi. And a lot of people have come out of the woodwork and just said, you know what? No. He was extremely professional, and he would just tell you, look, I'm really Tony Clifton. And yeah, he was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor in a Series for Taxi in 1979 and 1981. But Tony Clifton, oh God, Tony Clifton. Tony Clifton is just audience-abusing lounge singer who was actually opening up for Andy Kaufman at comedy clubs and eventually even performed concerts on his own around the country. Sometimes it was Andy Kaufman. Sometimes it was his brother Michael, or sometimes it was Bob Zamuda. And for a brief time, it was unclear to some that Tony Clifton is not a real person. A lot of people didn't get that. Tony Clifton, not an actual human. But anyway, news programs would interview Tony Clifton as Andy Kaufman's opening act, and the mood would turn ugly whenever Andy Kaufman's name would come up. Andy Kaufman insisted Tony Clifton was attempting to ruin Clifton's good name in order to make money and become famous. Tony Clifton had a bigger ego than anyone in the history of show business. Anyway, as a requirement for Andy Kaufman, I can't speak today. I'm having problems. Accepting the offer to star on Taxi, he insisted that Clifton be hired for a guest role on the show, as if he were a real person and not a character. And after throwing a tantrum on the set, Clifton was fired and escorted from the studio by security guards, much to Andy Kaufman's delight. This incident was reported in the local newspaper. There was a famous episode of Saturday Night Live where they were doing a sketch where Andy Kaufman was impersonating Elvis Presley, and he broke character, which was, as you will see, very common for Andy Kaufman to do while on television programs. He would break character a lot, especially on live shows. He removed his wig and apologized to the audience, and he did that because he disagreed with how Presley was being portrayed in the sketch. He initially didn't want to do the sketch, got pressured into it, and there you go. That's what he did. Now, Andy Kaufman. Well, I'll get to the Carnegie Hall show in just a second here. This is one of the most amazing things. Some other people have tried to do this to some extent, and they've succeeded in some cases, but nobody did it like Andy Kaufman, which you can say about anything Andy Kaufman ever did. Nobody did it like he did. You know, he just didn't follow the groove in the record. He was always going to do something different. And he was totally fearless. He didn't care whether it was a laugh or not. He was going to do the thing that he was going to do. So anyway, he did it in a sketch. If you say so, Michael. If you say so, man. I don't think he did, but maybe he did. 1983. Okay, if you say so, man. But Dr. Vinny Boombots, that's a Rodney Dangerfield thing, bro. I'm sorry. Scott LaRock said, here's my impression of Andy Kaufman. Thank you very much. Coach Mike says, hello to all my friends in chat. Oh, hey, Tom. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. Dupa says, Scott, nice impression. People saying hi. People saying hi. Michael Gardner says, here I come to save the day. Middleman Vicky says the Mighty Mouse skit just cracks me up. Many people thought it was so stupid. Not me, though. It's conceptual humor, and it's based on your expectations. He took all of the known expectations of entertainment and performing and just did what he wanted with them. He was just amazing. The skit's so simplistic in its hilarity. It really was. Coach Mike says, Mighty Mouse was my first memory of him. Kelvin is here. He says, sup, Tom. Sup, Kelvin. Love Taxi. People saying hi. Turns out he could only get Andy Kaufman on the phone. Metal Maiden Vicky says, wasn't familiar with Tony Clifton. Oh, Metal Maiden Vicky. Tony Clifton, the most abrasive, illogically abrasive. Just, whatever. Let's see. Metal Maiden Vicky says, oh, yeah, Vic Ferrari. Let's see. Firestorm Productions is here. Saying hi, saying hi, saying hi. People saying hi back. Let's see. Andy Kaufman, great entertainer. I love Taxi. It was great. So in 1979 at Carnegie Hall. All right. At the beginning of a performance there. Carnegie Hall now. Not just anywhere. Carnegie Hall, New York City. Kaufman invited his grandmother to watch the show from a chair that he had placed at the side of the stage. And at the end of the show, she stood, took off a mask, and revealed to the audience that she was actually Robin Williams, who had sat there the whole time. Maybe the beginning of Mr. Doubtfire or whatever. Mrs. Doubtfire. Who knows? Kaufman also had an elderly woman pretend to have a heart attack and die on stage, after which he reappeared on stage wearing a Native American headdress, performed a dance over the body, and revived her by doing that dance. He ended the show by taking the entire audience, 24 buses that were lined up outside Carnegie Hall for milk and cookies. Yeah. He then invited anybody that wanted to meet him on the Staten Island ferry the next morning, where he continued the show. Now that's Andy Kaufman. That's Andy Kaufman right there. Yeah. He did a number of TV specials which were just... He basically, on one of the TV specials, he wanted to run static for a good portion of the show, and the executives went, well, the people will think that there's something wrong with the broadcast, and they'll change the channel. And he's like, yeah, they will. So, anyway, there was a TV show. Now, remember that he appeared, I want to say 16 times on Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live had a sort of a competing show. It wasn't technically competing because it wasn't on at the same time. But NBC had Saturday Night Live. ABC had Taxi. And at the time, ABC saw the success of Saturday Night Live, and they wanted to have their own show, only they did it on Friday. So it was called Fridays. And a number of people came out of that show. I mean, Michael Richards, who played Kramer on Seinfeld, came out of that show. Melanie Charltoff, several people. But it was a live show as well. It was trying to be some kindred spirit of Saturday Night Live, just on a competing network. Well, in 1981, Andy Kaufman made three appearances on Fridays. And in the last sketch of his first appearance, the cast deliberately broke the scene and improvised an argument. Kaufman broke character first on live television, and he said he felt stupid. He refused to say his lines, and in response, Michael Richards walked off camera, returned with a set of cue cards, and threw them on the table in front of Kaufman, who responded by throwing his water on Richards, and a fight broke out, and one of the producers stormed onto the stage, and this huge brawl ensued. Cut to commercial. Now, Michael Richards claimed that what was going to happen was known only to him, the producer, and Andy Kaufman, but Melanie Chartoff, who played his wife in the sketch, said that just before airtime, the producer told her and a few other people that Kaufman was going to break the fourth wall. Now, Kaufman appeared the next week in a videotaped apology to the home viewers, and later that week, he returned to host Fridays, and this is just... At one point during the show, he invited Lawrence Welk singer Kathy Sullivan to the stage to sing some gospel songs with him and announced the two were engaged to be married. He then talked to the audience about his newfound faith in Jesus. Andy Kaufman, of course, is Jewish, but it was all a hoax. And later, following a sketch about a drug-abusing pharmacist, instead of introducing that night's musical act, a little group called the Pretenders. Some of you kids may not remember the Pretenders, but the Pretenders are awesome. Back on the Chain Gang. He delivers a nervous speech about the harmfulness of drugs while the band stood behind him, and they're ready to play. But his speech just kept going and going and going. And after the speech, he informed the audience that he had talked too long, and now the show needed to go to commercial. So the Pretenders were just... Yeah. Yes, Metal Maiden Vicky, big fan of the Pretenders. Although he really made the name for himself nationally on Saturday Night Live, his first primetime appearances were guest spots as the Foreign Man on the Dick Van Dyke variety show Van Dyke and Company back in 1976. He was on The Tonight Show 4 times, and he was imitating Ed McMahon, with no change in his voice. Ha, 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 how hot was it? Kaufman also appeared 3 times on the Midnight Special. He appeared on The Dating Game. Oh, my God. If you've never seen that, I think it's still on YouTube. And he appeared on The Dating Game in character as Foreign Man and cried when the Bachelorette chose Bachelor number 1, protesting that he had answered all the questions correctly. Oh, brother. I tell you what. After he angered the audience, and we're going to get to more of this later, with his female wrestling routine, executive producer Dick Ebersol announced on the show that viewers would be allowed to decide whether Andy Kaufman got to appear on the show ever again or not. They held a phone vote. 195,000 people voted to dump Andy, while 169,000 people voted to keep Andy. Yes. And by the way, the Saturday Night Live cast got into it. Eddie Murphy read both numbers and said, "Now, Andy Kaufman is a friend of mine. Keep in mind when you call, I don't want to have to punch nobody in America in the face." Mary Gross read the Dump Andy phone number at a rate so fast, audiences were unable to catch it. And as the credit rolled, legendary announcer of Saturday Night Live, Don Pardo, said, "This is Don Pardo saying, I voted for Andy Kaufman." Following those results, he made one more appearance on the show via a pre-recorded 30-second message on Weekend Update. And in the message, he expressed his gratitude for being on the show and said he had resorted to buying time on low-rated independent TV stations to be heard. There we go. The last appearance on the show. He made a number of appearances on the David Letterman show in 1980. That was the morning daytime edition, by the way. Yeah, David Letterman had a morning show. He made a number of guest spots on other TV programs hosted by or starring celebrities like Johnny Cash, 1979 Christmas special, Diana Shore, Rodney Dangerfield, Cher, Dean Martin, Red Fox, Mike Douglas, Dick Clark, and yes, Joe Franklin. In his first theatrical film, God Told Me To, he portrayed a murderous policeman. He appeared in 2 other theatrical films, including In God We Trust, where he played a televangelist, and in the film Heart Beeps, legendarily bad movie, which he played a robot. The avant-garde, and Metal Main Vicky will know who this is, avant-garde musical artist Laurie Anderson worked alongside Kaufman for a time in the 70s, and she was like his straight man, although she's like way out there in a number of his performances. And one of these performances included him getting on a ride that people stand in and get spun around. And after that began, he would start crying and say he didn't want to be on the ride and start crying. Oh, brother. He also appeared on Broadway with Debbie Harry. Yes, Debbie Harry from Blondie in the play Teaneck Tansy, The Venus Flytrap, which closed after 2 performances. Laurie Anderson, you remember that one? Oh, Superman, oh, God, oh, Mom and Dad, Hi there, I'm at home right now, but if you'd like to leave a message, just start talking at the sound of the tone. Anyway, Laurie Anderson. You know what? Laurie Anderson. I don't know if you can do a show with Laurie Anderson if you don't actually play her music. Laurie Anderson, though. She would be one to do a show on, though. Laurie Anderson. It would be. Laurie Anderson. There we go. All right. I'm going to get to professional wrestling here in just a second. Did you guys hear that? Did you hear the revving of the motor there just now? Let me know. Let me know. Idiot. Absolutely an idiot. Let's see here. We'll get to pro wrestling in just a second. I do want to get to some of your comments very quickly. Lots of comments here. Where did I leave off? There we go. People saying hi. Andy Kaufman, great entertainer. I love Taxi, says Firestorm Production. Crappy at Life wants to know how you get to Carnegie Hall. I think you just practice. Main Vicky laughing. Concert venue in New York. Midtown Manhattan, I think. That Robin Williams story is fantastic. Practice. That's how you get there. Michael Garner says, I got to watch Man in the Moon again just for you, Michael Garner. There you go. I'm going to put that movie poster up there for you. People are laughing. Yes, Manhattan. I never attended an event there before. Let's see here. I have to go pick up Maggie soon. I don't know who Maggie is, Firestorm Productions, but I encourage you to do that if Maggie's waiting for a ride. Fridays was great. People saying hi. I can only imagine that sketch between Andy Kaufman and Michael Richards. Well, Metal and Vicky, you can see it online. I have no doubt that you can see them. Because a lot of people, maybe even just till I told them just now, thought that that was a real, because of Andy Kaufman's past breaking from script on live television programming, a lot of people thought that was real, but it wasn't. People saying hi. The Pretenders, Dupe is a Pretenders fan. Can't talk about Andy without also mentioning Zamuda. Well, yeah, you kind of can. I mean, let's put it this way. There wouldn't be a Bob Zamuda without Andy Kaufman, but there would be an Andy Kaufman without Bob Zamuda. But it's nice to talk about both of them. Pretenders, yes. Who? My city was going, I went back to Ohio. Oh, man. Yeah, friends with him. Let's see. Kelvin says he's 21. Likely story. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. People saying hi. I have not seen that dating game. It's probably out there. People saying hi. People laughing. People saying hi. People saying hi. Let's see here. Gene1313 is here. Hello to the best chat and host of all of YouTube. Well, thank you, Gene. That's very kind of you. Okay, the hellos were all present. Gene's laughing. Let me see here. Firestorm. The claim that the dating game host Chuck Barris was a CIA assassin is part of his memoir, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and is widely viewed as fictional. That is true. But it's a good movie. People saying hi, people saying hi. I'm going to skip the rest about Chuck Barris because we're talking about Andy Kaufman. People saying hi. Letterman was hilarious back in his morning show days. His wit was so quick. He was like a comedy gunslinger. Brian, you're right. Remember when his announcer, if you will, his Ed McMahon was a comedian by the name of Bob Sarlott. And Dave would ask him a question. How are you doing today, Bob? I'm doing really great. How are you, Dave? I'm doing fine. That's correct. You just won a brand new car. And they'd have a guest, this little writer or something on the show. And Dave would open up the show with, well, you've heard her records at all the dance clubs in town and certainly on your radio. Well, we're happy to bring a big star. We were lucky to get Donna Summer. And in would walk this balding little thin guy with glasses. And Dave would begin interviewing him as if he was Donna Summer. And at a certain point, the guy would have trouble answering the questions and not get them right. And Dave would go, well, I don't think that's true at all. You started in New York, didn't you? And he would get really like flustered and run off stage. And then Dave would go, I'm sorry, folks. We thought we had Donna Summer. The man came in here and said he was Donna Summer, and we took him at his word. It's just funny stuff. Kelvin said, I need to watch that film again. I believe he was, Matt. Confessions. Let me see. Me too. Let's see. He was an essay. Yes, I think so. Kelvin says, you people are so lucky. A Gen Z like myself has time for y'all. Really? I think you're lucky to benefit from our years of wisdom, experience, and the compilation of knowledge and wisdom and life skills that we have to bestow upon you. I mean, obviously, we haven't done a great job. You support Newcastle. Metal Maiden Vicky says, not familiar with Laurie Anderson. I bet my sister did, though. Metal Maiden Vicky, you don't know Laurie Anderson? And then it's Laure, by the way. You need to check out the song, Oh, Superman. That'll tell you all you need to know about Laurie Anderson. I like that show. Is Deborah Harry? The Dating Game. Thanks, Tom. You're very welcome. Great show, Tom. Well, thank you. Welcome, Gen Z person. Enjoy the nostalgia for an era you will never truly know. We're welcome. That's another affectation of your age, is that you, I guess, imagine that a reality show is going to spring up around you because you are so special and unique like a snowflake. Here is your participation trophy, which we never got. People are laughing. Brian K says, I'm still waiting for Trump to take up a message. It's been Andy the whole time. The Wolf saying hi to everybody under the sun. People saying hi, 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 people saying hi. I remember him interviewing bald Donna Summer. Yes. Whoops, sorry. Bald Donna Summer. There you go. Lucas Malago with a salute to the crowd. By the way, I want to just go ahead. Wait, we'll get to this thing. Lucas Malago, without fail, retweets my tweets about the upcoming shows every day. And that's just of and beyond the call and duty. I appreciate it. People saying hi. Look at this fella here. Hard Archivist is gifted 5 the Tom Gulley Show memberships. And he's doing God's work there for the Pod Awful cult and archiving things. And Hard Archivist, thank you so much. Appreciate that, buckaroo. For that, you get the point. There you are. Tyler Schallenberger says he remembers the Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman stuff, which we are going to get to in mere seconds. Kelvin says, I am special. My mom said so. People saying hi to the Hard Archivist. And he's saying hi right back. Okay, so now, Andy Kaufman, as you might imagine, was drawn to the fakeness and the overblown, illegitimate drama of pro wrestling, a lot of which we talked about yesterday. And in keeping with his own habit of elaborate hoaxes, he began wrestling women during his act and proclaimed himself the intergender wrestling champion of the world, taking on an aggressive and ridiculous personality based on the characters invented by pro wrestlers. He offered a $1,000 prize to any woman who could pin him. He actually did use famous performance artist Laurie Anderson in his act for this for a while. And by the way, it makes a lot of sense that Laurie Anderson would get along with Andy Kaufman. They were very outside the norm. It wasn't just music. It was a lot of other stuff with her. So it makes a lot of sense. I remember when he was rationalizing this whole thing, and he said, look, I'm not that great of an athlete. I'm looking out into the crowd. At least a half to 3/4 of the guys here could beat me in wrestling. But I'm confident I could beat every single woman here in a wrestling match. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I will just show you this picture. For those of you who may not be really great at detecting such things, do you see the redhead there standing on the back of Andy Kaufman's legs? And he, of course, had the old school wrestling outfit on that was like, I don't know, long johns and a pair of shorts. That redhead actually is Deborah Harry from Blondie. Yeah. So he initially approached Vince McMahon, right, about bringing the intergender, hoax thing to the Northeast wrestling territory. And McMahon said, no, I'm not about to bring show business into the... Come on. Anyway, but by then, he had developed friendships with a lot of people in professional wrestling. So after many discussions about wanting to be in pro wrestling, he was introduced to, yes, Jerry the King Lawler. I thought I had loaded up a photo of Jerry the King Lawler here. Maybe I didn't. If I didn't, I apologize. Let me see. Let me pull up Jerry the King Lawler here real quick. I'm almost positive. I know I went to his page. Clifton. Well, I'm going to do that right now because I have the ability. Give me a second, folks. I'll bring up Jerry the King Lawler for you. No, I wouldn't do it for just anybody, but for you, I'll do it. By God, I'll do it. I will do it. Come on. Here we go. Jerry Lawler. Kabam. How about that? Come on. Talk to me. There's Jerry the King Lawler. So Andy Kaufman gets introduced to Jerry the King Lawler, and they talk on the phone, and they finally get together in a wrestling ring in Memphis. Andy Kaufman was taunting the residents of Memphis by playing videos showing residents how to use soap and proclaiming the city to be the nation's redneck capital. And the ongoing Lawler-Kaufman feud, which also had other heels like Jimmy Hart in Kaufman's corner, included a number of staged, what they call works. You hear that all the time on the, it's a work. Such as a broken neck for Kaufman as a result of Jerry Lawler's pile driver and a famous on-air fight in a 1982 episode of Late Night with David Letterman, which you can still see on YouTube. That was legendary at the time. I mean, legendary. So for some time after that match, Andy Kaufman wore a neck brace, right? Insisting his injuries were much worse than they really were. He continued to defend the intergender championship at the Mid-South Coliseum and offered an extra prize other than the $1,000 that if he were pinned, the woman who pinned him would get to marry him, and that Andy Kaufman would shave his head. By the way, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Those are all things you can do. It just takes a click to like the show. It just takes a click to subscribe. And, you don't ever have to come back. You just subscribe because that helps us with, and the likes, with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing algorithm. Plus the fact we do have super chats and memberships. Memberships are a great way to look cool in front of everybody and help the show out. It helps us pay the bills around here. And then at the ticker at the bottom of the screen here, it will tell you how to turn on your gifted memberships so that if some philanthropically minded person gives out gifted memberships, you might get one, and then you get to see all of the, let's say, not fit for regular airplay stuff that I show on the weekends. So anyway, it was eventually revealed that all of these things were fake and that Kaufman and this guy here, Jerry Lawler, were good friends. But not until 10 years after Andy Kaufman's demise. So there you go. Now, officials at St. Francis Hospital stated that Kaufman's neck injuries were real, but Lawler detailed how they kept up that angle and all that stuff. He also appeared, did Andy Kaufman, in a 1983 film called My Breakfast with Blassie, with pro wrestling's classy Freddie Blassie, which was a parody of the art film My Dinner with Andre. And that's where he met Lynn Margulies, the woman who he would eventually fall in love with and spend his remaining years with. Yeah. He did have a weird thing. In 1969, he learned transcendental meditation at college. And he would use transcendental meditation to build confidence to take his act to his comedy clubs. And for the rest of his life, from 1969 on, he meditated and performed yoga 3 hours a day. From February to June of 1971, he trained as a teacher of transcendental meditation in Mallorca, Spain. So there you are. And I think you guys have probably seen the movie, Man on the Moon, and you get to see that Andy Kaufman did indeed like bus tables and work at a restaurant and do all sorts of weird, kind of stuff, However, at Thanksgiving dinner in Long Island, November of 1983, several family members openly expressed worry about Kaufman's persistent coughing. Now, he claimed he'd been coughing for about a month, and he visited his doctor and was told nothing was wrong. But when he returned to Los Angeles, he went to another doctor and then had a series of tests done at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. And a few days later, he was diagnosed with large cell carcinoma of the lung, which is typically associated with smoking. Audiences were shocked by his gaunt appearance during January, just a few months later, 1984, and Kaufman acknowledged that he had an unspecified illness that he hoped to cure with natural medicine, including a diet of fruits and vegetables. He got palliative radiotherapy, which radiotherapy is radiation treatment, pretty much. Palliative, though, just means it was there more for comfort and quality of life. And it's for people with serious, complex, often terminal illnesses. But by then the cancer had spread from his lungs to his brain. His final public appearance was at the premiere of My Breakfast with Blassie in 1984, March of that year, where he appeared thin with a Mohawk-style haircut. because radiation had made him lose the rest of his hair. The next day, the day after that premiere, Kaufman and Margulies flew to Baguio, Philippines, where as a last resort he received treatments of a pseudoscientific procedure called psychic surgery, which is now recognized as explicitly a deceptive medical fraud. But afterward, Kaufman said at first he felt better and he returned to the United States, but unfortunately he died May 16th, 1984, was only 35 years old. Only 35 years old. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say. You're going to say, but did he really die? Because he was the king of hoaxes. Well, he often talked about faking his own death as a hoax, and after his death, rumors persisted that he was still alive, often fueled by the sporadic appearances of Tony Clifton at comedy clubs, which was Bob Zamuda, of course. Kaufman's website calls the fake death story an urban legend and includes, yes, this photo in front of you, which is his actual death certificate. Clifton performed a year after Kaufman's death at the Comedy Store benefit in Kaufman's honor with members of his entourage in attendance, and during the 90s would appear at various Los Angeles nightclubs. In 2013, responding to rumors that Kaufman was still alive and following the appearance of an actress who claimed to be Kaufman's daughter, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office re-released his death certificate to confirm he was indeed dead and had been interred at Beth David Cemetery. Lots of legacy, lots of tributes for Andy Kaufman. Comedian Elaine Boozler, who dated and lived with Kaufman, credits him with encouraging her comedy career. And she also dedicated her 1986 Showtime special, Party of One, to Kaufman, an audio recording of Kaufman offering encouragement to Elaine Boozler is featured in the intro. By the way, Elaine Boozler, very, very, very funny lady. In 1992, the band REM released the song Man on the Moon as a tribute to Kaufman, and that's where the title of the film came from. Carl Reiner said, did Andy influence comedy? No, because nobody's doing what he did. It can't be done. Only he can do it. He also said, nobody can see past the edges where the character begins and his ends. Jim Carrey portrayed Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon in 1999, directed by great director Milos Forman. The film took the title from the REM song. Then the band REM contributed another song for the score called The Great Beyond. Jim Carrey, of course, was widely lauded for his portrayal of Andy Kaufman, winning a Golden Globe for his performance. Yeah. I have a lot of other tributes to him by the Comedy Store, actress Cindy Williams, Shirley of Laverne and Shirley. There's a bottled fragrance that was created in 2015 called Andy Kaufman Milk and Cookies. There is a competition each year called the Andy Kaufman Award, where it's a showcase for promising cutting-edge artists, with fresh and unconventional material for those willing to take risks with an audience and for those who do not define themselves by typical conventions of comedy. He did receive a posthumous star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in the television category. And, quite appropriately, in March of 2023, Kaufman was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. So there we are. I'm going to run through some of his appearances. He was on the Dean Martin Comedy World, Joe Franklin Show, Saturday Night Live 16 times, Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson 6 times, Van Dyke and Company 10 times, Mike Douglas, Dinah, The Midnight Special, The Hollywood Squares, On Location, the second annual HBO Young Comedians Show, Taxi, The Dating Game, Dick Clark's Live Wednesday, Cher, The Lisa Hartman Show, The Tomorrow Show, Good Morning America, A Johnny Cash Christmas, The Merv Griffin Show, The David Letterman Show, Fridays, Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters, The John Davidson Show, The Fantastic Miss Piggy Show, The Andy Kaufman Show, which was a PBS presentation. And let's see here. We went through his film stuff. There's a lot of in-home media that he appears in, and various actual video games. One of the WWE video games actually has an Andy Kaufman character in it. So there you go. There are 3 discs of his comedy, but none of them were released until 2013. And I believe you can find most of those on andykaufman.com, which still exists and is still a very, very good website I went to for some of this research. That's all I really have to tell you today about Andy Kaufman. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Let's get to some of your comments. People saying hi. People saying ha. The Wolf says, oh boy, more championship wrestling, brother. Kelvin says he needs a woman to pin him. He doesn't know why it repeated. Well, if you were a little older and had more life experience, you would know. My bad. It's okay. We accept that you don't have the experience and wisdom that we do. We're more tolerant than you are. We're better than you in every way. You just don't have the wisdom to see it. It's okay. Andy looks very explosive in that picture. Yes, he's very explosive. Wood. Love the King, but I only WWF Attitude Era. No. See, the youth of today doesn't have the patience to put all the words in the sentences. Melmaine Vicky said that guy looks like a mix of Tony Little and Mickey Dolenz. I'm a big Mickey Dolenz fan. Jerry Lawler is a confirmed, hey, now, I don't know anything about that. I just woke up from a dream involving Pervitin. Oh, Pervitin, yeah, Pervitin. I can't really pronounce it anymore because the opening song has me. Wolf dreaming of that fine German chocolate. Wolf says, all I remember is a woman questioning me about my knowledge or some such nonsense. Did she want your papers? Tyler Schollenberger got to meet Jerry Lawler years ago. And the Wolf says, Tyler, I met Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Windham gambling together in the Dunes Casino. I laughed and said, man, you guys are really enemies. They laughed too. Brian K. says, by the way, welcome, Brian K. Who else besides Jim Carrey could have pulled off that role? I don't think anybody. I'm glad we don't have to know that. I'm glad Jim Carrey did it. I'm glad he's the one that made it happen. Well, Wolf says he's not dead. He's still alive, going by the name Brushy Kaufman. Well, there was one thing that said he was going to wait 30 or 40 years before he came back. So Melmaine V says lots of fun shows to make appearances on and also act. So much packed into his short life, yeah. Scott said, did you read Jerry Lawler's wiki? No, I just went and got a photo. I recommend it. Okay. Not a big Jerry Lawler fan, really, to be honest with you. But I don't dislike him. He's a pro wrestler. Phone lines are open at 972-994-6822. The number's in the ticker at the bottom of the screen. I'll leave those open for 5 minutes or so, and then I have no idea what tomorrow's show is going to be about. I know it's not going to be about Laurie Anderson. That much I do know. I've already done a show on the Merkin. Once you do that, I mean, what else can you do a show about? I've got all of these papers here with things written down on them, I'm telling you. One of these days, I'm going to do one on a man called Shenandoah. Oh, Shenandoah, you're doomed to wander all along this land so lonely. Oh, Shenandoah, you're doomed to wander to roam so far from home. All right. COINTELPRO, I could do one on that. I want to do one on an invention of some kind tomorrow, I think. Because nobody watches Friday shows. That I do know. Nobody watches Friday shows. I've proven that. I've proven it. I done proved it. By God. Tyler Schollenberger, ironically enough, I met Jerry because he appeared at a local baseball game for our Major League Affiliates tribute to professional wrestling night, and I just happened to be there that night. Is that the Des Moines Cubs or the Des Moines whatever's there? I thought Des Moines used to have a Cubs affiliate for a long time. I think, have I done the Joy Buzzer yet? I don't think I have. What else have we got here? Those are some questions I asked somebody for an interview. Let's see. I don't want to do more entertainment stuff. I want a good, calipers. I want to do one on calipers. Mike Rowley says, I watch Friday shows. How about the dating game killer? Well, wasn't Richard Rodriguez or whatever his name is? The Night Stalker, wasn't he on there? There's been more than one killer on the dating game. I'd like to point that out. UK horror scene hasn't gotten back in here because I was going to have him on the show. Let's see. Ghosts. I could do another thing that doesn't exist, I suppose. Mittens. I could do it on mittens. It's getting warmer out. I could do something about that, I suppose. I'll figure something out tomorrow in a fit of pique, a fit of panic. Let's see. Yes, Gene, I watched the movie about it too. Brian K says, I loved how Kaufman went on stage and got heckled for doing the same acts over and over again by Bob Zamuda. It was their way to answer the somewhat valid criticisms he was getting in the press. Quad Cities River Bandits, but yes, Des Moines did have a Chicago Cubs affiliate, the Iowa Cubs. I think they still exist too. Gotcha. There's a weird propensity for boomers to overlook bad behavior when it's proven. Just say Jerry was indicted on it. Dude, come on. More than one killer. Yeah, Scott, we don't do that here. More than one killer. You should do a show on the Fox. The only man that could shut a pitcher of beer on his. He was on Taxi, Cheers, and a host of other. Yeah. Okay. Rodney Alcala is the one that the movie is about. Shut a pitcher of beer on his head? How do you shut a picture of beer? Look, right there, I just said the one thing that, see, when I do a topic, it has to be able to last an hour or close to an hour. And one sentence isn't gonna, hey, there's a guy known as the Fox and he could, whatever, a pitcher of beer on his head. Yeah, there's only 59 minutes and 30 seconds left. Woman of the Hour is the movie. Shug. Okay, I don't. Can you dig it? I guess. Yeah. That's. Yeah. What do you think Andy would be doing if he were alive today? I have no idea, but I know that's one of the things when I was researching, and I was going to ask you guys. Was what I think it's impossible to imagine because he was always doing something that you never could have sat down and thought about, Chug. Oh, okay. I think probably I'd spend more time trying to decipher what you meant than actually talking about that guy. Cyrus, are you talking about the can you dig it? I have that clip, but weirdly enough, that clip is like on some copyrighted song. So every time I use it, I get a notification from YouTube, and they use it just, they don't own that. So I don't play it anymore. I used to play it on the show all the time. Gene says, Mr. Wolf, he was on the Man. Was he on the Man Show? He'd probably be reinventing comedy and absurdity, probably. And by the way, I don't think you can say it enough times. His Elvis impersonation, closing the phone lines, by the way, his Elvis impersonation was the best ever. I don't care what anybody says. It would just freak you out because he'd be up there. This is Mr. Jimmy Carter. Hi, I am Jimmy. And doing this. Did you guys hear that? And he'd be doing this dumb thing. And then all of a sudden he would go into this like point perfect Elvis impression. Yes, Gene, many times. My friends and I used to frequent his inn. Yeah, I saw him. I saw him do it once on the Man Show, and I never needed to see it again. It was like, okay, that's a neat trick. He was Elvis's favorite Elvis impersonator. Yeah, he was amazing. Amazing. I'm not a guy that likes Elvis impersonators, but he just, I guess it was the transformation. Maybe that was part of his madness, his genius, was to be this straight up and down character so that when he busted out Elvis, people were just, oh my God, that's perfect. Like when we heard Jim Neighbors sing, yeah, that was always, golly. And then just such a delightful turnaround, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And even doing impersonations, which you don't see that many people do anymore. You got guys like Frank Caliendo and certain other ones that are good at it. There's no question about that. But it's not like back in the day when, you know, Fred Travalena and Rich Little, and there were people that's all they did. And they were on the late night talk shows and stuff. Didn't Eddie Murphy also do the Elvis act? Maybe he did, but I think that was a skit one time. He did Elvis, but nobody did him like the late great Andy Newman. Yeah. Anyway, I'll do a show about something tomorrow. I don't know what it is. Phone lines are closed. And of course, we'd like to thank Hard Archivists for gifting those 5 Tom Gulley Show memberships. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, by the way, give Pot Awful $1. I don't care how you do it, but give them $1. They've asked me to ask you to give them $1. And yeah. Also, set your clocks. Saturday, 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Metal Maiden Vicky's Metal Euphoria. You got to go to sonicasylumradio.com, our very, very good partners and friends over there that we love so much. And you'll enjoy it. You might see the Wolf. Heck, you might see me if I can. Man, Saturdays, I'm asleep all day. Eddie Murphy's a heck of a singer. He is. Gomer breaking into deep baritone out of nowhere was a trip when I was a kid. Yeah, it really was. It really was. Golly, Sergeant Carter, I don't know. And then all of a sudden he'd just get on there and go, this is my country. Being from Indianapolis, for so many years, my favorite part of the Indianapolis 500, And it's a ceremony of about an hour and a half before there's the driver introductions. They all walk up onto the deal. There's all sorts of things, the releasing of the balloons. It's all a big production, right? And they sing God Bless America, and they also sing, obviously, the Star Spangled Banner. But at one point, and Jim Neighbors did the. Well, let me just find out how long. I'm going to say 35 years. How many years did Jim Neighbors? Whoops. Come on. Sing Back Home Again in Indiana at the Indianapolis. Fine. From 1972 to 2014. So that's 25. Add 3 is 28 and 14. 28 and 14 is 42 years. No, 30. It says 36 years. I don't know how they do that math. Maybe he just wasn't there for some of the years because he was doing other things. But back home again. It was really good. Vicky and Brian agree. Nothing more perv than hearing a recording of Jim singing Back Home Again. And oh yeah, the new moon, hey, in all its fragrance. It sends out its fragrance. Yeah. But now they've got a guy that's awful, and I hate him. He's like this Chicago Blackhawks national anthem guy. I would throw food in his face if I saw him. I would say, stop doing that. Just stop. Please just stop. But anyway. Well, hey, man, I think that's going to shut us down here for today. I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. And it says that, like the Reverend Al Green, I got to get on up out of here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You know. By the way, we only have 4 more days of Skype. What do you think about that? After that, I'm going to have to, put the link up. Metal Maiden Vicky says, another excellent show. Well, thank you, Metal Maiden Vicky. Brian K says, you have a good night, y'all. Fun trip down memory lane. Brian K, great to see you. I welcome aboard. Come back anytime. The chatting's fine. Metal Maiden Vicky's good night with, I don't know if this is the metal sign or I don't know what that is. A rock sign. I don't know what it is. I do know this. You know what this is? That's too much metal for just one hand. That's my standing joke. Anyway, with all that being said, all of it, Andy Kaufman was far more than a generational talent. He was a one-of-a-kind talent that, like no other, and we'll never have another like him. And we were lucky to have him for as long as we did. So, go on to YouTube, just type in Andy Kaufman, and kick back and enjoy. And with all that being said, I think the only thing left to say is, till next time. We'll see you next time.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They talking about